Hey there, YouTube. This is CFL Fanatic, giving you my picks for Week 11 in the 2010 CFL season. Hope you're all enjoying your first week back at school if you're a student. Mine hasn't been too bad. Anyways, so Labor Day weekend, on Friday night we have the BC Lions stunning the Alouettes with a big win, very exciting game. Then we have the Bombers and the Riders on Sunday play a very exciting game of football. And we follow that up with two of the ugliest games I have ever seen. Unbelievable on Labor Day. Just brutal games. So, anyways, last week 2-2. Chris Schultz beat me 3-1 because I broke the cardinal rule. Never think that the Argos could actually win on Labor Day, and that takes me to 22-14, and Chris Schultz to 9-7. I need a week where I go over 500. All right, so I want to start with Edmonton because, Edmonton, we've known that they've had their struggles this season, but last week, 52-5 loss against the Stampeders. And when you make last year's Argos look half decent, then you know that there's a problem. I have never seen such a lack of focus, of concentration, of fight, from this Edmonton team. Especially, the receiving core comes to mind first in that Calgary game, but unbelievable. So if you're an Eskimo fan, like I said, I feel your pain. I really do, because I've been there before, and it's not a nice taste. So they better get things going fast. All right, so next week the Alouettes play Hamilton, and McPherson is going to be the starting quarterback. He's off the 9-game injured list. Calvillo is still not there, though, and last week, with Chris Leak at the helm, despite coming off the bye week and 2 weeks knowing that Chris Leak would be the starter, they lost by 21 points to BC. So the question is, they're not a one-man team when you look at the roster. But when you look at them on the field, it really does feel that way, because when Calvillo is gone, everybody else on that team, even defenders who don't even play at the same time as Calvillo, seem to operate at like half their level of skill. And so, this is where I have concern for the Owls, because Calvillo is old. He's getting older. He can be more prone to injury, so that's not good for them. All right, Walter Spencer last night was at a Montreal nightclub. Let me get my note here. And he was stabbed twice outside the club at 2:50 on Monday morning. He had to be rushed to hospital. At one point, he was in critical condition and his life was in jeopardy. 2 stab wounds. One of the stab wounds hit his lung. He needed emergency surgery, but it seems he's in stable condition now and he's doing okay, so get well soon, buddy. All right, on to Buck Pierce, who suffered an elbow injury against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Not sure if it will end his season. Never like to hear that, but I'm pretty sure that the elbow injury was on his throwing arm, so you're not going to recover from that too quickly, unfortunately. That brings in Stephen Giles, and if Giles is going to lead this Winnipeg team, he has got to do... he's got to do better than he's been doing in the past, because he doesn't have a ton of experience. He was with Saskatchewan for a while and he got a bit of reps, a fair number, but he doesn't have a whole bunch of experience. And the Bombers without Pierce were struggling, and they actually did well last week when they had him, so hopefully they can keep it up. All right, week 11. 3 out of 4 of the games this week were very, very difficult to pick. Unfortunately, this was the one exception, because after you lose by 47 points, and this is not the first one. They lost 52-5 on Labor Day, and 3 weeks ago they lost 56-15. So that one was by 41 points. So, I would like to say that Edmonton will play a better game at home against Calgary, and I think they will, mainly because, I'm sorry, but how can you possibly do any worse than the way they played on Labor Day? But you know what? I think, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really see much chance of Edmonton doing anything this season. And this game will be no different. I'm going to have to take Calgary. Montreal and Hamilton. This is an interesting game because, like almost all the other teams in the CFL at this point, it's hard to gauge how good these teams really are. Montreal, are they a good team? Yes. Were they doing near the top of the league before the Calvillo injury? Yes. But now that they don't have Calvillo, how good are they? Was that BC win just the Alouettes having a bad game, or was it the start of a pattern that seems to happen when Calvillo is not in this game? And then also on the other side of the ball, this gives an interesting question as to how good Hamilton is, because I personally feel, and I may be biased in this because Hamilton just came off destroying my team, 2 times in a row, but I really do not feel that Hamilton is a 5-4 team. They are not exactly a fantastic team or anything, but boy, Toronto did a pretty good job of making them look like a really stellar team. So you know what? I would like to say that Hamilton is in for a wake-up call. I would love to say that they're going to get that from the Alouettes, but without Calvillo losing to BC, who was formerly the worst team in the league, I have to take Hamilton in this one. All right, Toronto and BC. Now, this is a tough one because, again, Toronto, like I said, there are a lot of positives about this team, and I think I was being, very optimistic about this team because, for the first time in 3 years, I can be optimistic about this team. I can say, when they're going through adversity, they're going to turn it around. That's why when they lost to Hamilton in the first game that they played between each other, they lost 16-12. I thought, even the best teams have a bad week. But once they lost the Labor Day game this Monday, that's when I begin to think and begin to see that this is not just an isolated incident that they lost. This is a pattern. And this is the start of a pattern for Toronto. And it's not a good one. Their offense cannot seem to get anything done in the red zone. The turnovers are a huge problem for them right now, and if they want to have any success, they're going to have to fix that. Now, talking about BC for a little bit, and you also have to gauge how good is BC. I mean, they beat Montreal, but remember, Montreal had Chris Leak. Montreal's offense did next to nothing. And in this game coming up, I feel that Toronto's offense, they're not showing me that they can't do anything more than next to nothing. So Chris Schultz is taking Toronto because he feels they're confident in their starters. I'm not quite sure what that means. And you know what? I'd like to be optimistic, but I think this is the game where I can make up on Chris Schultz. And I have to take BC. I have to go against Toronto in that one. They're just not showing me that they're there. Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. Another good game because Winnipeg is yet another team where it's hard to gauge how good they are. Or this one's different because Winnipeg is 2-7. But as far as I'm concerned, they're playing better football than Hamilton, who is at 5-4. Now, that's just my opinion. Remember, Winnipeg came within 4 points of Saskatchewan in the Sunday game. And let's face facts, Saskatchewan did not exactly play a bad game of football. So I have confidence that this Winnipeg team is going to be able to turn it around. And I think Winnipeg is a much better team than their record would indicate. Now they don't have Pierce. They know that Giles is starting. They're going to practice, and I think that they really want this win. It's time for them to win, and they're going to get the win against Saskatchewan at home. So those are my picks in case you missed... Sorry, that was wrong. It's supposed to say Hamilton defeating Montreal, so ignore that. Anyways, I will see you next week.